Hey folks, welcome to the Market Internal Review for July 12th, 2023. So with the pre-market release of the CPI data, it came in at a reduced rate from what was previously established. So the market rallied almost $4 by the time of open on SPY. That definitely took out a lot of potential movement for the regular trading hours between my opinions anyways. Overall, really good day. The morning session gave us some chop. We definitely had a massive push on tick right here at open. So 1, 2, 3 extreme bullish closures. Meanwhile, you can see the low end of each candle was making a new low every time. Meanwhile, price was kind of stuttering up. It was short-lived. We definitely had a dip into the gap range. Nothing really significant though as far as dips go. The main thing that I saw was even though the ad was incredibly high to start out with, as well as the VOLD was giving us a bullish green band, we definitely had a lot of wick kind of candle delivery here. And the other thing that I've mentioned in the past is when we have these extreme closures, that typically sets a tone for the day. However, right at the open, I don't think that's necessarily the case, but also this typically signifies the end of a move. So if you consider the move it took, even though it's pre-market, to go from here to here, and this is where we open regular trading hours, we're showing extreme closures, that's pretty much signifying the end of the move. So it's definitely not something you want to chase, especially with options. The volatility is really high. Just overall, better to sit and observe and watch. Now with the lower lows, the lower highs being made here, as you can see on MIT, average closures are still going up, but we're seeing a potential balance flashing on trend. I think that makes a lot of sense given that all the indices are ripping. We have an entirely insane amount of stocks on the NYSE at extreme advancement. You'll see the ad chart here in a little bit. The other thing that I noticed, and I called this out on Twitter today, is I'm sitting here and I'm looking at these candles. I'm seeing all the wicks. Yes, we're bullish. Yes, the bands are green, but we're seeing some cooling off here. All this dim band locations here, these are where the ad is closing lower than it did the previous period close. And the VOLD band is still pretty dim as well. It's bearish trend. Ad is mixed. All these wicks. So we know we had a huge gap up. To me, just from trading gap up scenarios, historically, I expect a retracement back into this gap at some point. That being said, I've also mentioned via TWAP that I typically will target these previous days' target levels for my trades. They're all well below us as we open up today. And so to me, I've got a little bit of a short bias. All the bullish bias I had, that was basically done and over with by the time we even opened today. The big thing that I called out on Twitter, though, was that all of the tick action was bullish, but we're not really making much progress as far as price is concerned. We are also seeing lower highs on the tick. Meanwhile, we are seeing higher highs on price, but not very strong. Okay, so here is a tick divergence. The other thing, there's a whole void here of really any kind of bearish extreme tick. No retests on NYSE the whole time, just melting up. Okay, this is what I call melt up when it's real wicky. We're making a higher price, but it's very choppy, poor delivery as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so I'm seeing this, and at this point, I'm just starting to look for any weakness around TWAP. I want to see a break below. I want to see us fail to hold above the first standard deviation high. I want to see some kind of weakness, either in the ad or the VOLD. And we finally start seeing that right around, what is this, almost 11 o'clock. We break below the TWAP and we fail to break back out. So right here at 11:04 is where we really started to see potentially some weakness. Now, they saved it here at the lower end of the first standard deviation. We break back above, but this next candle here, to me, is just very weak. And that's where we get this nice bearish engulfing candle right on TWAP, and we make a really nice retracement move back into the gap. The ad band, at the same time all this is going on, has flipped bearish, and we're seeing a lot more dim than we are anything else. We're also starting to see a little bit of peak of some bearish tick. When we hit this level here, we made an extreme bearish low on tick and the VOLD. The volume across the New York Stock Exchange is starting to go bearish. So that being said, we hit all my price targets for this short. We hit second, third deviation. We hit the morning low. And I had some other things for this spot, but this is definitely a trim, especially when we have almost a void of any bearish tick activity for the rest of the session. That being said, right around our favorite time, 12:30, is when we break back in after a retest of second deviation. We break back in on a nice candle here, and we make a very interesting pattern right around the morning low. You can see we really struggled around there, and price just kind of went back into choppy delivery. Even though TWAP is green, it's still heading down somewhat, so it didn't give me a lot of confidence, but there, I think, was a couple of good chances for a mean reversion, especially once we had full alignment on the ad and VOLD bands. The trend's flipping bullish again. The trend is starting to show a little bit of imbalance. We're back into bullish break of the 500 high. So all of that, I think, as long as you had some patience, you definitely could have grabbed a decent trade. Say if you got in here, cut it below these lows, and you just aim for even TWAP, you would have gotten a 3-to-1 trade. If you held out for standard deviation high, you would not have seen that today. That would have been an L. But definitely think mean reversion worked. Following all these signals, maybe you bounce out of there when the ad flips bearish again on the trend. But other than that, we had another break back down with the bearish tick here in the day, and it hit kind of this really nasty chop up area. So we just really did not want to come back into this gap zone. The 50 area of the gap zone was a 445 price. We didn't see it. They defended it quite well. As far as the weekly TWAP goes, we basically were staying right above that first standard deviation high on the weekly. We were way out of all the deviations on the weekly when we opened today. As far as the monthly goes, third deviation back into the second, still above the first. So we're quite extended from a monthly standpoint, even though, well, we're about halfway into the month. Monthly TWAP is 441. Weekly TWAP 4427, almost 443. So resting on the previous week's upper standard deviation price target level of 4427, almost the exact same price. Flip this back to session, and I'm going to turn on the tick levels. All right. So besides the tick divergence, besides all the extreme bullish closures, we had some clarity provided by the tick levels indicator. All of these closures gave us thick prints right around that 446 price and right around here on the almost 447, 4469. Look at that. Bear candle, two of them, right on this tick level. So this was one of the trims I had right here. Once I saw this extreme print close, that's definitely another trim, and I kept a small runner that ended up stopping out somewhere around here into profits, but I held it just in case we hit 50% of the gap range, which was not actually that much further away, less than $1 away. But take a look at Qs. So Qs had much the same day, except for they actually did a full reversion of the first standard deviation. So once they reclaimed the first standard deviation low, they broke back above TWAP, did the retest, and actually hit the first standard deviation high. So they showed a little bit more strength, and while they had a gap up, they did finish slightly up, 56 cents. So they had another, let's see, 415 of a gap up. Pretty crazy. The Dow, I wanted to say, was stronger earlier in the day, but yeah, I didn't watch it towards the end of the day, so this is actually surprising. I know some Dow names that were actually up today rather nicely. We'll check the Russell. All right, Russell, massive gap up, and then actually way worse than the other indices as far as tradability goes. Incredibly flat. Wow. Yeah, I did not watch Russ much of the day. $3 gap up. And let's see, where did they end? They ended down. 88 cents down. Still not bad. Still overall, I would say neutral. Okay, tick showing that extreme closure high that we had right out of the gate. So just everything full pump right at the open. And you can see we spent quite a lot of the morning making mostly a downtrend here. We channeled down the whole morning. Once things settled, you can see a lot of the average closures are indeed above zero. So with a little bit of noise at the end of the day. Trend is showing its bearish sentiment for just a couple of times today. Didn't hold very well. Right around when we had some decent trades is where they started to head more towards the balance, potentially bullish area. But overall, mostly noise. Not really strong bearish, not balance, definitely not bullish. But that being said, to get from bearish to bullish, we have to be bullish. We have to get through the balance. We have to have a trending move. But we didn't really see that today. As far as the ad is concerned, so we had a couple of nasty drops here on the New York Stock Exchange around 11 o'clock. Lost the 20 SMA and really broke down. And then at 150, we also had another one. But you can see if we zoom out here a little bit, the overall trend for the ad is down. But when you see that we started up at 2200, I think it makes sense that there's probably going to be some profit taking. There's going to be some readjustments. There's going to be a lot of shifting of liquidity after a data release like that. Now the volume is giving mostly a picture of bullishness where all the volume is pouring into advancing stocks. So it's quite a divergence from the ad here. That being said, I think we've got more data release, and even though the VOLT is at highs, and price didn't quite match that. I'm not sure that I would be expecting more bullishness tomorrow, maybe not even for the rest of the week, just because of this kind of gap up. It's going to have surprise part of the market for sure, and we're going to see some adjustment, I would imagine. I wanted to say I saw VIX had made some moves today. Yeah, VIX started at 14, almost 15, and broke all the way back to the 13.5. So no more 15 action. Take a look at Microsoft. Big gap up, mostly looking like SPY. Check out NVIDIA. Okay, NVIDIA gap up and showing some pretty decent strength. Wow, they had really they moved $8.73 after, this company is just a machine right now, after a almost $6.50 gap up. That's a payday right there for anybody that was bullish on NVIDIA. Congrats. That's insane. Let's see. What are some other things? Let's look at Apple. Okay, Apple mostly flat, gap up. Couldn't really hold the value of that run. Almost 190, 191. So 200, not too far off. Okay. Financial sector, they're headed down a little bit. XLK gives us another way to look at tech. Okay. All right, folks. Well, again, more than willing to have some discourse on Twitter. Did share a decent chart today before we had this drop. Hopefully, anybody that's following me on Twitter was able to capitalize on that and develop their own plan based off of what I was seeing. And yeah, this was a pretty decent day. Hope you all had a good trading day, and thanks for watching.